the course. First of all, thank you all for joining. This is a beta course, which means a test course. The idea of that is just basically that this is content that I've been sitting on, so to speak, for the last 10 years. It's of huge interest to me, and when I meet with clients, I notice that it's kind of an area that's not really touched on in general in business. Like if you're looking into business plans, if you're looking into marketing training, into business training, this is an area that is kind of untapped, so to speak, and is hugely, hugely important because it's all about understanding your customer. And that's obviously one of the most important aspects of any business. If you understand your customer, you can then position yourself in the marketplace in such a way that you will attract that said customer. Okay, so welcome to the training and thank you all for joining. I really appreciate you joining this beta test. What I'm hoping for at the end of 21 days that you will learn a huge amount that you can implement into your business, and that following on from that you would be happy maybe to give me a testimonial, or I am actually going to run a 7-week course on this subject as well, and I can grandfather you into that if you'd like that as well. So just to kind of give you the heads up on that, the 21 days really are just to get people interested in this, give them a flavor of it, and also to see how they're finding the trainings, how people are adapting it to their business and how it's working for them. So I'm really interested to hear your feedback, which is really, really important to me. Okay, so just continuing on then in terms of consumers and who are they, and I suppose the best thing to look at then is the relationship of rituals for consumers. So some of this language, don't worry about it, it is kind of marketing, so to speak, or whatever, but basically rituals is really all about what we do every year in terms of, say, if you go to a wedding, it's considered a ritual. If you go like Christmas, St. Patrick's Day in Ireland, Labor Day, 4th of July, like all those kind of types of days are rituals for consumers. So they're rituals within their life, and those particular rituals actually encourage consumers to purchase items. So you can look at birthdays, there's a whole list of rituals that consumers have within their lives, particularly if there's religious rituals, there's, kind of loads, people are going to college, they're going to university, if they're graduating, if it's their first day, if it's their first day in school, there's all these aspects of life that are hugely important to people. And I suppose really what I'm trying to say to you here is if you can understand the rituals your customers have, you can then perhaps tap into an area where you can help to serve them with your product or service, buying into that ritual. So I know Tara is a wedding photographer, so obviously that's a hugely ritualistic time for two people in their lives, and equally for their families. And there's a massive amount of spending going on around a wedding in particular. So if you look at obviously the photography, the flowers, the dress, the suits, the meal, everything like that, there's a massive amount of money being spent. And if you can understand the rituals, what customers are expecting, what they want, who they are, that can help you to position your product or service in the marketplace within the wedding industry or within any other industry that you're in. So what you've got to understand is society, family, and women's history in relation to, say, weddings, for example, and obviously men's history in relation to maybe other products or services as well. So I suppose looking at things like weddings, you look at this revival, say, from the 80s in tradition and luxurious weddings, luxurious products. You've also got the element of, even if you look at storybooks, it's one thing that human beings are hugely into is stories. So people like to see the romance side of it, the magic, the memories. They want to create that perfect day. And it's the same can be said for Christmas, for 4th of July, for graduations, for birthday parties for little kids. We all like to have that magic to create, fabulous memories, and to have those perfect days within these rituals that we have within our lives. And I suppose really what supports that is that, for example, my daughter's going to be 6 in a couple of weeks, and I'm going to have to hire a place, to have her birthday party and get a birthday cake, and it's probably going to have to be a frozen birthday cake because that's what's really popular right now for her. And also, what type of presents do I get, and creating that magic for her. So just think of that particular situation. You think of Christmas is around the corner, if you've got birthdays, anniversaries, anything like that coming up. And do you have a product or service that feeds into those rituals that consumers have? You can even look at going to work. That's a ritualistic experience for a lot of people in terms of they've got to look the part. So do you have a clothes shop? Do you have jewelry? Do you have office wear? Do you have, like, say, even, you know, luxury bags? I saw a beautiful bag advertised today, perfect for the working woman, in that you can put it in your iPad or your, you know, your laptop. It has a place for pens, it has a place for notebooks, kind of geared towards the working woman, if you like. And of course, because of, you know, anyone that has a handbag, and most women do, you know, I spend most of my time kind of diving into it, wondering where everything is. So a handbag like that is of huge benefit to me, and it's kind of like a status symbol as well. I think it was Ivanka Trump has created it, and of course there's that whole association with luxury, with the high status, with that you're making it because you're buying, say, something from Ivanka Trump. So that whole idea of the brand Signify is hugely important to understand in that instance. So just going back then to creating magic, memories, and perfection for your clients. So look at your product, look at your service. Can you provide magic for your customers? Can you provide memories, wonderful memories? This is customer relationship management. But essentially, your customer doesn't care about customer relationship management. What they want is to have a very good memory of the experience that they have with you, and that's hugely important. They want that perfection. Magazines then, if you look at magazines, for example, are devoted to celebrity ceremonies. So magazines are kind of that idealistic way of marketing you know, what you should have. It's creating a really very much a consumer society, and many people aspire to be like celebrities. A couple of years ago we had Prince William get married in the UK, and there was massive coverage of that, because, you know, everyone wants to be a princess, or there's that whole, you know, we're told from stories from when we're very young that, you know, people aspire to be a prince or a princess, or that type of lifestyle. And when this is happening in real life, of course, the media went absolutely bonkers, you know, covering it, you know, the dress, the flowers, the fashion, a lot of the surface elements of what was going on within the wedding, and that was deemed to be hugely important to people across the world, and people bought into it. And if you look at, say, the wedding dress, or the way that people, you know, I suppose the way the ceremony was conducted, the way they, you know, they did everything, a lot of people aspire to be like that, and they kind of recreated that for themselves. I'm not just talking about weddings, I'm talking about other rituals, or other, say, anniversaries or days that are important to people, that people want to, you know, they want to recreate kind of that celebrity ceremony, or that idealistic ceremony, that or day that has those wonderful magical memories for themselves and their families, and that's hugely important. If you look at society in general, you know, there's kind of like, you have themed parties, themed even offices, you know, that's a huge thing at the moment. Elaborate weddings, elaborate, you know, it depends what, obviously, industry you're in. And I know some of you, Jeannie, you're in the tattoo industry, and, you know, how elaborate are your tattoos? What do they signify? What sort of memories are you creating? What magic are you creating? And is it perfect? Is it perfect to the person? And you're creating that kind of fairy tale tattoo for people, in that it's something that they have for the rest of their lives, that's signifying a particular message to themselves and to the world. And just to understand, what I'm trying to get across to you is that you need to understand your customer and understand their lives. And so by understanding their lives, then you can position your product or service in the marketplace, because you understand the benefit of your product or service to your customer. So as I said, I'm just giving examples of Christmas gift buying, binge buying, which can be, again, for Christmas, weddings, funerals, you know, are often overlooked and are a huge business. Again, the 4th of July, you know, there's a huge amount of binge buying for, say, going back to school last week. And then you've got ritual behaviors or sacred behaviors. So, like, for example, marriages are considered to be important socially, legally, and financially. And so there's all these kind of behaviors, and people spend a massive amount of money on weddings and different types of ceremonies, like weddings, that are deemed to be hugely important. And I suppose the important part to understand here then as well is that the spending is visible to their peers. So when people are having a wedding, when they're having a party, be it a barbecue, if they are, you know, having a birthday party for their children, whatever it is, it's visible spending. So you're demonstrating to your friends, you're demonstrating to your family how well you're doing in life by the very nature of the type of party that you put on. the quantity, the quality of the social connections. All of this is kind of keeping up with the Joneses really in a lot of regards, but people really put a lot of emphasis on this without even realizing, they're buying all these, as I said, Frozen, or if it's Young Boys, whatever the latest is for the boys, they will be buying the items that are important to the children. And often nowadays they're very, very expensive, but yet parents that is, put themselves under a lot of pressure to buy these types of toys for their children, but equally so they can show that they have made it in the world, that they're able to provide for their children. That's deemed to be hugely important. So if you look at a bank balance, for example, your bank balance is never shown to anybody else unless you physically show it. So conspicuous consumption really is all the idea of where you want to show people that you're wealthy. So this is going back to your customer. So does your customer like to show that they're wealthy, and how does your product or service fit into that category? If you've got a client that actually wants to demonstrate how wealthy they are, even if they're not in a lot of cases, you need to understand, needs to reflect this, and obviously the quality of the service or the quality of the product that you sell is hugely important to understand as well. So a lot of people want to express as well, particularly if people are moving up the social ladder, they want to express individualism and self-expression, and they often buy products and services that express their individualism, that express who they are as a person. So what you're thinking of, would say, when you're buying when a customer is buying certain items, like, so for example, if somebody buys a Jaguar, if somebody buys a BMW, if somebody buys a Mercedes, if somebody has a particular credit card, a platinum credit card, a gold credit card, just an ordinary credit card, what do they say to other people? So if you've got a platinum credit card, I think they're the highest ones at the moment, whereby that signifies you're doing really well, because otherwise why would, you wouldn't have it, otherwise the bank just wouldn't give it to you. So it's reflecting to other people, if you're going out for dinner, that you have this particular card, and it signifies you're doing well in life because the bank deem you wealthy enough, if you like, to have a particular card. So that signifies something. So there's lots of different, so a car can be the same, so be it a Jaguar or a Porsche, I'm just thinking of the high-end brands. BMW, if you get a Golf, what does that say? Saab is considered to be hugely safe car. So what does your customers drive? What do they like to have, and what does that say about them? And so what I'm trying to do is just give you kind of the story, the background around customers and what they think and how they decide on whether to buy your product or service. So that's called consumer buying behavior. So what are the behaviors around buying? And so if you take a step back from the buying of your product or service, you've got to understand the customer. And this is what today and this course is about, is understanding the customer. So if you can bear with me with some of the terms or some of the words that I'm using, you will get familiar with them. I really want you to understand, that a customer, their self-identity, that is how they view themselves, is hugely important to understand, because a customer will buy products and services based on who they think they are. And it's kind of a marker of how wealthy they are or not. Some people obviously aren't into buying stuff that shows they're keeping up with the Joneses. Some people are good at saving, and that's what they're into. And again, it's about understanding that particular customer mindset as well. So you've got customer culture, you've got romantic love. So this is just, again, going back to the wedding, or indeed any sort of celebration. Magical transformation. If you look at transformation as a topic, it's hugely popular at the moment, in that, even if somebody, CEOs or executives or many different people, are looking to transform their lives. Some people are looking to educate themselves more, like you guys and ladies are on this course. So you want to transform your business, you want to understand your customers. So many people are looking at transforming their lives, maybe to lose weight, to be fit and healthy, to eat better, to be better in their love lives, to be better parents, whatever it is. People are looking to transform their lives. So how can you as a business owner help them to transform their lives? It's a massive theme at the moment, right across the board, in terms of society. So if you can tap into that theme of transformation, just a heads up to you, that can be massive in terms of understanding your customers. So again, it's providing memories, is hugely important. And what a lot of customers are looking for is appreciation and recognition for who they are. So can your product help them to be appreciated amongst their friends? Can your product or service help them to be recognized amongst themselves? So these are important aspects of human life, of your customers' lives, and how they want to project themselves out into the world, and how can you help them to achieve what they want? So, for example, there's a huge amount of growth in the sports tourism industry, where you've got like experiential sport going on, or people are going, say, skiing, for example, or people are going hiking. That's one of the biggest tourist attractions in Ireland at the moment, and I'm sure many other countries where people are coming to hike. Within Ireland itself, it's actually interesting. People in Ireland don't necessarily hike that much now. It's changing, and this is where attitudes and culture is changing over time. So 10 years ago, pretty much nobody was hiking, and slowly, as many tourists are coming into Ireland, we're starting to realise the benefits of hiking in terms of health and fitness, and equally as the basis of making money within the tourism industry, and how important it is, and how important particularly Germans and people from the United Kingdom come to Ireland, and they want to go on hiking holidays. They want to see Ireland, in nature, and they want to experience Ireland. So that's kind of the experiential aspect of tourism, or experiential aspect of any service that you provide. That's what people are looking for, is transformation and experiences, and can you provide them? So just ask yourself that question. What is your business? Can you provide an excellent customer experience, no matter what product or service it is that you have? And if you can, and so for example, you might realize, well, I can, but I'm not doing it right now. Write it down. What can you do? And get about providing that extra service, or that extra added part to your product or service that will help people, your customers that is, to have a better experience. So people, customers want to be visible in what they do. So often they want their friends, for example, to know they've been on this sports tourism, been on a hiking holiday. They put it up on Facebook. They show that they're consuming. In other words, they show that this is the type of holidays they're going on. You could have somebody going on a cruise. You could have somebody just on the beach. Whatever it is people are into, that's what they're into, and they want to show their neighbors, they want to show other people that they've made it, they're able to go on holidays, that this is the type of person that they are, this is what they're into. So the images and objects reinforce this. So if you look at advertising, for example, so advertising really, when you think about it, is really your marketing. So if you're on Facebook, if you're on Instagram, if you're on, the Twitter, all the different social media, if you're sending emails, the images that you send project a certain image, and make sure that that image, is desirable to your customer. Okay, so just think about that. So what images are you projecting? I know, so like Tara's on the call, and she's a photographer, so she's got beautiful, amazing images, and she can really play on that, because when I look at her images, I kind of think, I want to get married. If I look at her images of beautiful scenery, I want to go there, where she has taken the photograph. So images can be a wonderful way of projecting to the customer the end solution. So if you have a product, you can show the end solution. If you don't have a product and it's a service, you can get creative, and you can use really good images to convey to your customers the benefits of, buying your service or your product. A lot of people, if you look at it, they are elitist. Not everybody's elitist, but some people aspire to being elite, so they don't mind paying extra money, or that is, so for example, if you've got Richard Branson, he's not going to mind spending 50,000 for X, Y, and Z, or 10 for somebody else wouldn't pay 500. So do you want to appeal to the elite, or be an elitist type of product or service? And what you have with that is the associated higher values. You can charge more basically for it. But again, I suppose some businesses fall into the trap of saying, yes, I'm elite and I'm fantastic and all the rest of it, but they don't have the support systems around it. So basically, when the product is bought or the service is bought by a customer, what happens is they aren't actually providing what they're saying, what they're going to provide. So be very, very careful that if you have a product or service, whatever it is, that you are actually able to deliver on that elite idea or that high value item, that you can deliver on it, and that your customer service is really excellent, that your product is excellent, your service is excellent, and that you are delivering on what you say you're going to deliver. Okay, so if you look here, you can see a couple of these that are really, really helpful to look at. If you look at, people are, customers are looking at being happy. They're looking at self-fulfillment. They're looking at autonomy, looking at their own life, being independent, and personal transformation. So these are kind of themes to look at. So happiness, self-fulfillment, autonomy, and personal transformation are really excellent, to look at in terms of, can you provide these themes? Can you provide them for your customers? Do you already? Can you extend what you're doing? Can you give them a better experience? So this is all about understanding your customer and who they are. So if you look at consumers in general, there's often a desire that, people desire to have a celebrity lifestyle. So they want an elite lifestyle. So say like Richard Branson or, anyone else you can think of that's, really wealthy or whatever the case is, that you would like that lifestyle. There is you imagine it's very easy to have that lifestyle, but of course they've got to work hard for that. But how do you foster that desire? So how do you market to your customers in such a way that they want to buy your product or service? How do you create that elite kind of brand, if you like? So again, you're looking at really good images, you're looking at an associated array of excellent website, very good service, customer service, all that. So marketing isn't in isolation. It's all about understanding your product and service, what you can deliver, and what benefit that gives to your customer. So look, I'm reiterating or restating some of these, but there's a desire for luxury, there's a desire for status, there's a desire for prestige and romance. And this can be, again, it depends on your product or service. You might think romance is kind of flippant, but it's not. Even for Jeannie, perhaps for the, tattoo artistry, sometimes maybe somebody, a partner might like to buy a tattoo for their partner, knowing that they are really interested, I don't know, in having a little rose or, kind of more flamboyant sort of tattoo. Maybe they're into particular sport that they'd like to have that type of tattoo, or, there's different reasons. So that's kind of a romantic element, perhaps, to people view it. Again, prestige. Is your product or service prestigious? Is there status around it? You've also got to look at, if you look at status, there's also a thing called reverse snobbery, which I've run into a few times, in that I used to be involved quite a lot with horse riding years ago, and I suppose people have the idea that it's really expensive and, you must be kind of upper class nearly type of an idea to be horse riding. Now, that's not always the case, of course, but there's kind of a certain status involved with it. But so I've lost my train of thought. Isn't that terrible? So yeah, status with the horses, and so reverse snobbery. And I came across people then that were horse riding in any case, and there was 2 groups that you could join, and they wouldn't join one group because they thought they were too snobby. But what they did was, yes, they created their own group. And so in a way that was reverse snobbery, because they were creating their own group, because what was happening was they weren't the top dog, if you like, in the first group. So they decided to create their own. So they created their own status, so to speak, in the second group. So they were the top dog within that. So you often have things like that can happen within sports or within groups. And I suppose really this all comes back to understanding human nature and understanding customers in particular in terms of your product or service. Okay, I know I'm speaking quite fast, so I'll try and slow down. So advertising, or again, marketing, I've used the word advertising, but marketing has huge influence, on how, customers or how people conceive utopian life, so that ideal lifestyle. What's your customers' desires? What do they aspire to? What's their fantasies, their hopes, and their dreams? And how can you convey that about your good or service? Okay, so just to understand that, how can you convey that? How can you market about luxury, status, prestige, romance? Because this is what kind of people are, aspiring to. So kind of aspirational products and services. Is your product and service, or product or service, if it is, to tap into that idea and give your customers what it is that they seek? Okay, depending on the business you're in, there's 4 main luxury items, and that's food and drink, shelter, clothing, and leisure, which in many ways are quite basic in terms of the clothing and the shelter and the food and the drink. But of course, you can buy a McDonald's, and equally you can buy a meal that's fantastically expensive. And I suppose really sitting down then and understanding, what do those 2 types of meals provide? So what does a McDonald's provide for people? What does a high level, gourmet meal provide for people? So how does the customer feel when they eat McDonald's? What's the situation that they're buying it within? And equally, what's the situation where there's a high level meal or a gourmet meal? What's the situation? What's the price level? What's the surroundings like? So start to visualize, start to write down, what is your product or service? What sort of lifestyle does the customer have that wants to buy from you? What's the situation that they'd buy? So, for example, if it's somebody in their early 20s, are they just after coming out of college? Do they have very little disposable income? So what sort of a McDonald's is a gourmet meal. Whereas somebody maybe in their 40s or 50s, maybe, you know, they've got an anniversary or something coming up, are they likely to go to McDonald's? Are they likely to go for a gourmet meal? So it's about understanding your customer in terms of their wants, their needs, their situational life, their lifestyle, their attitudes, the culture around them, sometimes their religion, particularly nowadays, depending on what country that they're based in. So it's about understanding the overall lifestyle of your customer. And that will help you to frame your marketing message, because you're framing your market message in the context of who your customer is and that you want to speak to them. That's what you want to do in your marketing message. You want to speak to your customer and speak to them very clearly. And basically what you're saying to them is, I've got what you want. And that's really at the essence of any marketing message you've got. So I've got what you want. Be it a product or service, I've got what you want. That's exactly what you want the customer to do. You want them to email you, that you want them to go online, you want them to walk into your shop, you want them to buy from you. And why? Because they get the message that you've got what they need and what they want. If you're looking at, I suppose this is kind of, some of it is specific for the wedding industry, but if you look at industry in general, you know, what sort of culture does your product or service create? You know, are there stories you can tell about previous customers? I put fairy tales there, but I mean, I put it there for a reason. And the reason is that, you know, customers buy into the stories of other customers. So please start reiterating, start telling, get testimonials, but get testimonials in this, you know, like stories, be able to say, well, you know, I have this customer and they, you know, did X, Y, and Z, and they did this and they love this. And so you're giving all the aspects, the different aspects of your product or service through a story of a past client. And that's quite significant, because what that does is it puts into the mind's eye of your customer what it would be like to work with you. So tell lots of stories, not too many, strategic stories, maybe decide on 3. So if you've got a high level client, maybe tell them the story where, you know, that they were at, I don't know, a 6-star hotel or 7-star, you know, you're in Dubai or whatever it is, and this happened. Then your mid-level and your lower level. So what story can you tell about your business that can convey very clearly to your customer that you've got what they want? Okay, so if you're advertising then as well, popular magazines can be a great way to advertise in terms of how, you know, the readership and how you position within the magazines. It can be very expensive, but it can be a very good way of getting across your story. If you can tell your story, if you're getting your story written within magazines, particularly trade magazines, this can be really, really good, because what it does, again, positions you in the mind of the consumer. And if you've got an ad, or sorry, not an ad, if you've got an article written about you in a magazine or in a newspaper, it trumps any day, hands down, an ad any day. So if you can get an article written about you, that is gold. So please send your stories into magazines, into newspapers on a regular basis, and let journalists know what it is that you do. Because if you get an article written about you, no matter what industry you're in, you will start to emerge as being different to others. Because in the mind of the customer, what's happening is they are saying, oh, this part, you know, this business must be very good, otherwise why would the journalist write about your business or service? Customers understand that journalists have to make decisions about who they write about, and that they feel that journalists would only write about successful or businesses that provide good quality and service. So, you know, it's very good, very strategic, very way of positioning your business within the minds of your customer, to strategically send PR press releases to popular magazines, to strategic magazines or newspapers within your industry, or just in general, depending on the business that you have. So again, just going on about the magic in people's lives. So people want to experience magic in their lives, and you might laugh about that, but they actually do. So if they buy clothes, if they buy jewelry, if they buy perfume, if they buy cars, people want to experience, your customers want to experience magic in their lives. We're being told every day of the week through the media, through soaps, through whatever you're watching, whatever you're reading online, that we need to experience magic in our lives to be happy. That's kind of the message coming out to us. So with that in mind, there's a huge amount of, you know, people, particularly women, will go out and buy clothes to feel happy, to have that magic in their lives. They'll go out and buy jewelry to showcase to others that, you know, they've come up in the world, they showcase their figures, showcase that they're beautiful, you know, showcase that they have very good taste. So they want to experience magic in their lives through the consumption, through buying products and services. So how can you create magic in the lives of your customers? Okay, so I'm just trying to throw questions out to you, get you thinking outside the box in terms of the clothes, the jewelry, the perfumes, the cars, the products, the services that you provide, and what magic can you create in the lives of your customers. Customers want to feel change, even just for a short while. They want to be transported out of everyday space and time. So can you do that? And if you can, do it. Because if you do it, you've created magic in somebody's life for a short time. You know, and what they'll do is they'll refer you time and time again because they've received a wonderful experience. There's a wonderful saying from Maya Angelou where she says, you know, that people don't remember what you say, but they remember how you made them feel. So people don't remember what you say, but they remember how you made them feel. So it's super important that you actually, customers, feel that they've been through a magical experience with you for, if it's a short time, if it's a long time, and they've been transported out of their everyday space and time, you know, and that you've done that for them, and they'll remember you for it. Okay, so products transform the user. Now it sounds very basic, and it sounds, you know, when we start hearing this first, it sounds like, really? But often people do. You know, you see people, you know, they've got a new phone and it's fantastic. I got this Android phone and it's the best phone. I got a new computer, I got new shoes, they're the best leather, you know, all these things. You hear people saying it all the time. So it's transforming the user. They're creating magic in their life. So look at Disney, one of the most successful companies in the world. When Walt Disney first pitched the idea about Disney, he was laughed at. So remember, he understood that people want magic in their lives. So I suppose that's the ultimate magic experience, or magical experience, is going to Disney World. But please understand that creating magic within the mind, within the lives of a customer, is hugely important. Understand then as well religious symbolism and once in a lifetime occasions. And this is just going back to kind of occasions within people's lives. Religion can often be very important in people's lives, and there's many, many occasions, be it christenings, weddings, funerals, and all what happens in between, that are very symbolic, and they're lifetime occasions, and people buy for them. They get their hair done, they get their teeth done, you know, they get waxing done, they get, you know, facials, they get all this sort of stuff done to go to these occasions, to be seen, to, they project, you know, so a woman goes, she gets a beautiful outfit, she looks really well, she gets her hair done, her nails done, all that sort of thing, because she wants to look elegant, she wants to look sophisticated, she wants to convey a certain persona to her friends, and as well as she wants to feel good within herself. I mean, don't forget that. That's obviously hugely important as well. But understand your customer. If you look at fairy tales, they're all about fulfillment, and you know, people today really want that fairy tale within their life. They don't say it, but they do. Now I know I'm talking about a lot about marriage and love and all the rest of it, but the basis of any business is about relationship management. And what are relationships about? They're about love. And it's a metaphor, really. That's what I'm using it as a metaphor. That romantic basis for understanding your customers. So if you've got a love relationship with your customer, basically, it will last longer. If you put time and effort into your customers, they will stay with you, they'll last with you. Also remember that culture is dependent on visual imagery, magazine stores, advertising, cultural texts. So just be very aware as well, particularly with religious cultural differences, you know, that you're not upsetting people by your images that you're using, and that you understand your customer and where they come from in terms of what types of images that they like. So for example, in Europe, there's a lot of nude women in newspapers, for example. And I remember I was in Canada and I was taking a flight home, and we stopped off in the UK, in London, before I got back home to Ireland. And I just picked up a newspaper, The Sun, which, you know, is based in Ireland and in England. And page 3, for years, as far as I can remember, you know, as long back as I can remember, you know, there's page 3 is a nude girl. And there was a guy sitting opposite me from Canada, and oh yeah, I read 2 or 3 newspapers, that's what it is. And each one, they're all kind of low-grade papers, and they all had pictures of nude women in the papers. And I think one of them actually had, maybe it was, yeah, there was quite a few nude pictures, basically. Nothing bad or anything. Like, I was just reading the stories. I suppose because I'm so used to seeing them, I don't even pay, I'm oblivious to them now. And I didn't even think of the fact that I was reading a newspaper with nude women or nude female pictures in it. But it was really interesting because this guy kept staring at me and for ages, and I was kind of thinking, what's wrong with him, you know? And after a while he said, do you mind me asking, but do those papers have nude images of women? And I was like, yeah. And he was like, and you're reading it? I was like, yeah, well, why wouldn't I read it? And, you know, so cultural difference was, to me, I was so used to seeing it, it made no difference to me. Whereas obviously in Canada, at that time at least, he was not used to the fact that there was cultural differences there. He wasn't used to the fact that there was, you know, nude female pictures in papers, and how, you know, we couldn't understand each other. I think he kind of got the idea that I wasn't just staring at the nude images, that I was just literally reading the paper. You know, so it's just interesting to understand that in different parts of the world, there's different cultural differences, different nuances, and we've got to understand them as business owners. So, for example, if you understand whether something is vulgar versus tasteful, also understand envy, anxiety, snobbishness, traditionalism, family values for the bride, and for many other types of business, as well as purity, joy, and happiness. The whole idea of a white wedding, I mean, really most times nowadays, it doesn't symbolize purity, but it symbolizes many other aspects. But you can understand that these were traditional values, and that they've kind of come forward into the more modern world as we have it today, and what does that stand for today, and how does that fit into your product and service? So the emotional appeal of goods and services. In the 1940s, for example, being slim became a sign of having good character and self-control. I thought that was an interesting one. That's in the 1940s, where being slim was considered to, you know, good character and self-control in the 1940s if you were slim. And that's kind of come through to today, really. You know, there's a lot of obesity in the world today, and yet there's this overarching idea that in order to be a good person in many ways, you've got to be slim. And of course, they don't translate into each other, but it's kind of a general internal focus that people have, that we've learned over time as human beings, that it's so much part of our culture, as our Western culture, that it's deemed that in order to have good character and self-control, you must be slim. Of course, as I said, this, it may not be the case, but it's going back to the 1940s, and I just thought that was interesting to understand the values that people put on different aspects of their lives. Also, in terms of makeup, if you look at reinventing yourself, originally wearing makeup was actually seen as being trashy. Being an actress is also seen as being trashy. So originally, if you were an actress or if you wore makeup, it was seen that you were like a fallen woman. And so Helena Rubinstein, if you remember that brand, and Max Factor decided to convey in their marketing that true beauty, that instead of hiding it, that their products actually had to bring it out, that you were concealing blemishes. So they started, and really if you look at it, marketing actually tells you that there's a lot wrong with your life because they're telling you to cover up, you know, you need to cover your blemishes. You know, if you look at it in terms of even deodorant, I mean, who first thought up deodorant? Who started saying, well, you all smell like crap? If everyone was smelling like crap, then why did you need a deodorant? You know, so all these ideas have come through businesses and good marketing, where we now believe that we have to have deodorant. We now believe we've got to be waxed to the death. We all now believe that you've got to conceal your blemishes, whereas before it was believed that you were not to wear makeup in any case, because if you did as a woman, you were deemed to be a fallen woman. So it's just interesting to see these. So, you know, the mouthwash Listerine in the 1920s, they had a whole marketing campaign around that if you did not use Listerine, you were going to be the bridesmaid and never a bride. So there was a whole idea that if you never use Listerine, have mouthwash, that you were going to always be the bridesmaid and never a bride. So that's quite interesting. So that's where, you know, the business, the company, the brand were using in many ways the emotions of women, where they wanted to be a bride and not a bridesmaid. And of course they were going to use their product on the basis they were never want to be left on the shelf. You know, so it's tying into different cultural ideals there, so it's quite clever. Also, if you look at Barbie is another interesting one. So it's the best-selling doll in history and the ultimate fashion conscious and long-legged beauty. And again, it's given the whole idea of this to be beautiful, as that blonde is beautiful, leggy is beautiful, and of course this perfect figure that of course is hugely unattainable, because none of us are dolls, so therefore you're never going to look like Barbie, none of us. We can buy the clothes, we can buy the outfits, we can get the hair done, but we're never going to be like Barbie, because as I said, she's a doll. But it was kind of like the Cinderella idea. So it's again, the beauty industry ties hugely into this, and I suppose really my point being, is if you understand your customer, and I'm saying to do this in an ethical fashion, is that you can actually tie into their emotions, their, what are they aspiring to? Do they want more makeup? Are you in the makeup industry? What industry are you in? Are you in coaching? How can you help people to attain that transformation that they're looking for so badly? So the whole ideal of beauty nowadays is that you need to change your hair, your makeup, and your costumes in order to be beautiful. So you've got to change everything, wax everything, do everything to be beautiful. Okay, De Beers diamonds is an interesting one. Back in the 1920s, and even nowadays, diamonds, are freely available. And De Beers realized this, and they were like, we've got all these diamonds, it's really good, I was going to say metal, but it's wonderful. How can we sell this? There's a lot of them. So how can we make this, high level, high value? How can we do this? So basically, first of all, they hold a certain amount of diamonds off the market. This cartel idea and all the rest of it, and that's been known to happen, and it's still happening. So that means they don't flood the market, because if they flood the market, it means that the price goes down, right? But what they've done really is they did a whole marketing campaign back in the 1920s and 1930s and 1940s, and it was all about positioning diamonds as a means of showing love from a man to a woman. And what they first did was position the diamond that if you were a man, you needed to buy a diamond for your lady friend that symbolized, first of all, it symbolized how wealthy he was. Second of all, it symbolized that he was a man, so tying into masculine ideas. And third of all, it symbolized his love for the woman. And so they did that for a while. And then they positioned the diamonds then with artists such as Picasso, Dufy, and Dali, who were very well known at the time. So what they were doing was giving images of high culture, taste, and sophistication. They were tying diamond engagement rings to high culture, taste, and sophistication. And in doing this, they positioned diamond rings in the marketplace as being of high culture, taste, and sophistication. So they charged a premium price based on their marketing. So it's quite interesting to look at. And nowadays, people are getting married, typically they will buy an engagement ring, and it goes back, imagine, to the 90s, purely from marketing, consistent marketing messages going out to the media. And even at the time, Air, I'm not sure how you pronounce it, were the advertising agency, and the managing director of that company actually decided that a man needed to spend at least 2 months of his yearly salary in order to buy a diamond ring. And it's that's still thought of today, and that's quite interesting, and it's all through marketing. So really what I'm trying to get across to you is understand your customers, who they are, how do you want to position your product or service, how do you want to price it, and when you know those, then you can go back and decide to affiliate your product or service with high images of high culture, taste, and sophistication, or otherwise, depending on where you want to position it within the marketplace. Now obviously they've got huge massive purse to do all this as well. But you can do this with social media and all the paraphernalia that's available today. You can do this on a lesser scale to position your product or service within the marketplace. So if you look at the diamonds, what they did was they increased sales from 25% in 1940 to 55% in 1941. And that's massive. So what they were doing was guilt of appeals, so to tug at the heartstrings of hapless grooms, and it was clearly successful. Also what they were doing as well, they brought it, this is in the States, and they brought it to Germany. And actually, at the time, there was the idea of giving a ring, but it was considered, you didn't spend as much. So they did a whole series of advertising within Germany, and over 2 or 3 years, they were able to change the minds of consumers there as well. And they kind of delved into the European market and equally into the Japanese market on the same basis as well. So they literally changed the entire thought process around rings and engagement rings in different countries, in the States, in Germany, in Europe, obviously, and there and Japan as well. And what they also did then as well to appeal to all the different price points, that they talked about the 1 carat. You get a half carat diamond, 1 carat, a 2 carat, and 3 carat, and the price ranges for each. So this means it was available for everyone, just at different sizes, you know. So again, this is a different price point. So it's very interesting to look at that in terms of positioning and pricing. Also, the idea of a diamond is forever. This is from 1947. It was a lady copywriter came up with this, and we can still see this in marketing today. And again, you know, your captions, your taglines are hugely important, and how they can reside in the mind of the consumer. A diamond is forever. And actually in the 1970s, they actually decided that they wanted to do a diamond is for now, and it just didn't take on, purely because it was so much in the mind of consumers before that it just wouldn't shift in the mind of the consumers. I'm just scrolling down here. I'm just trying to talk my way through all this in terms of what's, you know, beneficial to you as taking this course, consumer psychology. What's important to understand here is that you've got to position your product or service in the mind of the customer. First of all, you've got to understand the customer and then position. So in the case here of the diamond rings, you can see that they had, you know, millions of diamond rings, and it could have been a very low grade product, but they decide to position it in such a way with high level art and a series of marketing efforts over now a number of years, it would have to be said. They put a lot of time and effort into it, and it has worked. So if you looked at Japan, for example, they had 5% or less diamonds in 1968, and in 1981, they had 60% of the market before they were buying pearls and coral. So it just goes to show that consistent marketing does work, because you're getting your consistent message across. Okay, well, I just wanted to, we don't have much time, actually. I'm just go back actually and just check that who has logged in here while I'm still talking. And hang on now. Hi, Tara, you're still there, so thank you so much. So I'll just go back in here, and I will go back to the presentation. And what I'll do is you'll be receiving videos tomorrow, so you'll get the videos and you'll be able to go through that. And I suppose what I want to reiterate here is that self-image is hugely important in any customer. So, you know, jewelry, clothing, cosmetic surgery, it conveys a certain image to people. You know, so what sort of self-image does your customer want to project? Also the risk, what's the risk involved in the purchase of it? So for example, if you go for a cosmetic surgery, what's the risk involved in that? What's the price point? What happens if something goes wrong? If you're buying chewing gum, there's not much risk involved, you know, but if you have a high level purchase that can have a significant effect on your image, on your life, you know, there's higher involvement in that, just to understand that. The social factors, you know, are you making the correct choice? What does it mean to your peers? I'll be sending this out to you as well. So your choice criteria, and you can go through these yourselves, but basically the technical side of it is, you know, of your product or service, particularly in engineering or whatnot, is reliability, durability, performance, style, looks, comfort, delivery, convenience, taste. The economic, and these are the thought processes of the choice criteria, the price point, the value for money, the running costs, depending on the product. The social then is the residual value. How long does the status survive, we'll say, in terms of your social status? So in the wedding, it's obviously a day, but then you've got all the pictures and the talk about it for years and years to come. So the residual value of investing in, you know, something for a wedding, you know, what is that residual value? And equally for other occasions or products or services as well. Life cycle costs, so does it come around again? The status it conveys, social belonging, convention, fashion. Also personally, so reducing the risk, the morals and emotions as well. So I'll talk about those in more detail in upcoming videos. And you know, they're just important to understand. I'm just flying through these just to give you an idea of what this whole idea of consumer psychology is about. That's what tonight is about, is just to give you a whole sense of what it is about. If you look at Adidas and Nike, they have a whole sense of marketing around street cred, and also just do it. So what they're doing is tying into the whole idea of being an Olympic champion, for example. Just do it, get out and do it. So they can do a whole lot of marketing around that and charge premium prices around the whole idea of having celebrity endorsers, as in, you know, Olympic endorsers, and what does that convey? The whole idea of street cred, but equally of winning. You know, particularly in Nike, the idea of winning comes strongly across there. Just do it. Again, if you look at Coca-Cola, is an interesting one in terms of how affiliated people are to Coca-Cola and what it means to them to just drink it. If you look at Saab here, for example, is seen as a very safe car. Also IBM as well, they position themselves in the market as being very safe. So again, what emotional reason do people have to buy your product or service? What drives them to buy it? Okay, so consumer experience. So what's your customer experience? Write it down. I'll be giving you a list of all these questions as well. So 10 questions. Why the customer experience matters. Why customer experiences aren't improving. The 10 principles behind great customer experience. So I'll send these out to you. Sorry now I'm rushing, but I need to go through these in a more individual level. And before we go this evening, I wanted to show you a couple of things that will be helpful to you guys. So the first one is, oh, Jeremy. What did I do there? I just got rid of it. Okay, that's not the one I wanted. So recent ideal customer. Nope. Okay. Choo-choo. So here, if you look at ideal customer, so you're thinking of your ideal customer and who are they? Okay, this is where you have a couple of customers and how you look at it. So the background, the industry that they're in. So if you've got a B2B company size, department size, job title. So you can skip some of these if you're dealing with people on a personal level. Their job title, their age, their education, their income, their professional background, their responsibilities, years in the role, and then what's the priority of this situation. So how high in their priority list is it to buy from you? Their recent changes, market forces, that's, how many competitors do you have? Their pain points and their triggers, obstacles. So I'll just go through with a couple of, so we've persona 1, we've got the newbie. So if you saw in some of my emails, I would just push this out as well. So the background of the newbie is a small business owner. That's his job title, age 28 to 34, university degree, 40,000 to 100,000 a year, years in the role, 1 to 2 years. The situation is that he wants to make more money. He's got limited resources, limited time. The motivation is he wants to get more customers. Now this is more B2B, but again, you can see how you can use this for B2C as well. Inexpensive resources, corporate growth, habits, media consumption, reads online daily, has far too many email newsletter subscriptions, likes and dislikes, likes being active and busy, no time for complex software. This is critical, like in terms of what you're selling even. Habits and skills, excellent project managers and skilled at working with outside agencies, research methods. This is an important one. How do people find out about you? Is it online? Is it talking to people? Is it referrals? Is it from the radio? Is it from, articles written about you? Trusted resources. So how do they make their decision? Do they go on blogs? Do they ask other people? Is it websites? Is it webinars? How do they make the decision to buy from you? So they find out about you first of all, and then they've got to go through a whole decision-making process. Who does it report to? So in the case of maybe families, husband and wife, buying power, can they buy it? Are they single? Are they with somebody? If it's in a business, do they have to go to the director, get somebody to sign it off? What's their budget? Try and understand that one as well. Key stakeholders, are there other people involved as well? And also the purchasing process. So, the whole buying process and also the post-purchase experience is really important to understand as well. Now, we've 8:30, so I just run through this. This is the Cougar as well. I'll be sending this to you so you'll see it. So Director or Vice President of Marketing, University College degree. You can see there the income, years in the role, highest priority is return on investment, difficult to obtain resources, slow approval process, and then their media consumption. Again, you can see the nuances there are different from the last person. This is the person, kind of mid-level person on the whole corporate ladder. Their likes and dislikes, their habits and skills, and if you understand these, you can create a product or service that can help this person achieve what they need to within their business or within their life. Okay, so really go through these and actually do one out for your customers and understand that you've got more than one type of customer. So do a couple of them. And you can see here they've called them the gunslinger, the newbie, the cougar. You can call them what you want, but just so you understand the background, the situation, the habits, and the decision-making processes of your customers. That is hugely valuable. So I've gone through that quite quickly. I will do a video about that. And I just want to go back to the questions. Tara is still there, so thank you, Tara. I'm actually going to have to log out. Apologies for the start there. Somebody came in while I was actually doing the presentation. So yeah, I'm going to log off, and I'm going to send out a video tomorrow so that you'll be able to see that as well. And I'll be doing another webinar next week. And if you have any questions, Tara, please feel free to ask in the Facebook group. That is no problem at all. And I will see you there, and I will probably talk to you tomorrow. So thank you so much for listening. Thank you for being here. And hang on now, just put that part back so I'm back. So thanks so much for listening. Really, really appreciate you being here, and everybody else is listening to the replay tomorrow. I'll be sending it out, and I've flown through a lot of stuff there, and I suppose I need your feedback then as well, ladies, if you don't mind, in terms of, is that too much, or will I just do one concept per webinar or per video, because there's a lot of content to go through, so I'm just conscious of that. And I know this can help you in your business. Some of it is a little bit overwhelming to start with, but genuinely it's really good, and it can help you to get more sales if you sit back and listen, do the work with some of the workbooks, and yeah, it can help you going forward in your business. So thank you so much for listening, and I will talk to you tomorrow. Bye bye.